We're back. Are you ready for the best damn sports radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You don't want to be every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that thing. While I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who's coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the court. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, still listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Starts like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're after dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches, won't cut you short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzzer beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
And what is going on, Man Hour Nation? It's your boy BC Beastie Brandon Combs coming to you live on Sunday. We had a little bit of a timeout, if you will, a little bit of time off. We had to regroup. The NFL slapped us in our PPs, and we had to take a little bit of time off. But we're back, man. And I'm going to tell you, we've been working a little bit on the show. We've got some things working on in the backgrounds, some things that are going to be starting new come the new year. But we're going to start things off a little bit differently right now. And this is something I didn't tell Tori about. It's something I didn't tell Buck about. I didn't tell Soup. And I didn't tell Wyatt. We're going to start tonight with Combs eye test. And the reason why we're going to start tonight with Combs eye test is because I got a little bit something to say about our little suspension. Okay? The NFL has their copyright. They don't want you showing their stuff, even though if your show happens to be doing a little bit better than some of the stuff that they're producing. I mean, who the hell wants to listen to half of that Monday Night Football broadcast anyway? You know, you got the Manning brothers that are going. Some of their stuff is okay. But that night, that show, Soup Boss was doing his thing. 15,000 plus viewers on that video alone. And the NFL waited until halftime. Then we got our copyright strike. And I know it's probably not exactly Roger Goodell taking us down, right? I know it's not exactly the NFL watching the show and being like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I know that there's certain things, certain protocols that YouTube and Facebook have to go through. But what a crock of shit. You have got to be kidding me. You're talking about the NFL. The NFL who has players wearing ankle bracelets underneath their socks during games. You're talking about the NFL who has a guy in the Hall of Fame who had a body in the back of his trunk. You're talking about the NFL who has had players come back after beating the crap out of their girlfriends and their wives. But you want to come after the little old Man Hour because we're showing the game on our live view, on our live feed. Sorry. I think it's a crock of shit. I think I'm so sick of the NFL and MLB and NHL and all of these leagues out there. Oh, well, you know, you guys can talk about it, but you can't show it unless you've got some sort of money put into it and blah, blah. Stop it. Stop it. Because I'm telling you right now, there are probably about 50 to 100 other shows in this on just YouTube alone of guys who just talk football who could do 100 times better job than the guys on the Monday Night Football broadcast. And the way Soup Boss was doing it that Monday night, hands down, I would have listened to that show over anything else that they had on the TV that night. Hands down. What he was doing was perfect. The way he was breaking down the game, the way he was talking about, you know, going through things with the fans, having the engagement, talking about all the stuff with the people who are watching your product. The people who are watching your product, he's engaging with them, getting their views, talking the truth, not being politically correct, not coming and saying the things you want them to say. The NFL is a freaking joke. That's all I got to say about it because I don't want to end up getting us suspended, end up getting us kicked off of YouTube again. So I'm going to stop there, but it's a freaking joke. Anyway, we're back, people. Man Hour Nation. It's time to rise up. We're about to take the world by storm. And with me tonight is my boy, Wayne G. What is going on, Wayne?
What's going on? Not too much, man. I love the rant. I actually kind of side with the NFL on this one, but we won't get into that, right?
How did I know that you would side with the NFL? If anybody was going to be on this show and side with the NFL, it's going to be Wayne.
Just objectively. I'm not like pro NFL because I hate the NFL just like I hate the NCAA in terms of how they do things. But from a business standpoint, I look at it as like, all right, we're consumers. Obviously, whatever costs money, we don't want to pay the money. We just want to take it. And they're selling a product. They want to get money for it. So I kind of, in the scheme of things, I guess I understand the anti-theft.
See, I disagree, Wayne. If you see a product that's out there that is pushing your product, that is pushing your product well, why not try to figure out something to do? Why not figure out a way to bring that on to your platform to push your product? Because clearly it's working.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, with that mindset, though, I really hope that you start a Ferrari dealership because I'll take one off the lot and I'm like, dude, it's cool. I'm going to promote you, buddy. I'm going to promote you in this Ferrari.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Wayne. Here's the deal for us. If I ever start a Ferrari dealership, you get one on the house.
Hey, all right. Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right, Wayne. Let's get to some NFL stuff. Let's get to some NFL stuff that's not me yelling at the NFL. But how about Urban Meyer out in Jacksonville? Was this a good move for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
So it kind of is. I mean, the reality is they never should have hired him in the first place. I didn't like the hiring from the word go. The reality is when they got the first pick and we knew they were going to get Trevor Lawrence, I said Urban Meyer is not the right coach for him. He's not the right coach for any team in the NFL. He's a college coach, great college coach, like Bobby Knight, great college coach. But Bobby Knight's not going to be coaching the Bulls or the Celtics. It just wouldn't work. Urban Meyer doesn't work in the NFL. It was a bad hire in the first place. So yes, it works out. It was a good move. Get rid of him as soon as you can. Start kind of looking at who you want to replace the guy.
Yeah, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars absolutely had to make this move. I think it was the right thing to do at the right time. I mean, they questionably probably could have been done earlier in the season when he's, getting lap dances and bars and stuff like that and doing that type of stuff, because those are things that, organizations usually like to send a message to. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't think, handled that part of it appropriately. But once you have a kicker come out and say, hey, look, man, I'm out there stretching for a practice, and he comes by and kicks me, calls me dipshit, and tells me to start making my kicks. And when I tell him not to kick me again, he tells me, I'm the head ball coach. I'll do what I want. Like, at that point, when you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, you got to be like, oh, really? Okay, cool. Watch this. Because I think that he kind of forced their hand with that, right?
Well, it may have been the straw that broke the camel's back, but it wasn't a 10,000-pound straw. It was a 1-ounce straw. There was a lot of straws. Mostly all the reports coming out since preseason that he had lost the locker room before he ever had it. The whole reason he brought Tim Tebow in was because everybody likes Tebow. So everyone's going to rally around Tebow, and as long as he's on Urban's side, then everyone's going to kind of stick with the coach. But as soon as he cut Tebow, he didn't have an advocate for him there in the locker room, and nobody liked him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I believe that that's the only reason why Tebow even had, an interview with the Jacksonville Jaguars, let alone able to try to get on the field again. But look, you're on the side of, and I know as soon as it happened, you sent me an image of Urban Meyer in a Notre Dame jacket, though I think that that's a little far-fetched. You actually think that that's a real possibility. So you think Urban Meyer gets a prime head coaching job again?
In the college, not in the pros. He wouldn't even get a coordinator position in the pros. Nobody's going to hire him in the NFL at this point. He's complete. You don't want him. But in the college ranks, why would anyone not want him? I don't care about his scandals. He wins at the college level. He won at Bowling Green. He won at Utah. He won at Florida. He won at Ohio State. You just give him a chance because he's going to win for you. And then you just turn your blind eye to the lap dances. He'll have some sort of like recruiting scandal, although I don't know anymore because you can pay the players now. So he'll be fine. I mean, if I was a big college like Notre Dame who hasn't won a national championship in 30 years, I would absolutely take a flyer on Urban Meyer because you give him 5 years there, you get 2 national championships out of it.
See, I completely disagree. I think that, especially Notre Dame, you don't want you. So Notre Dame, right? They get a lot of flack for, they put, when it comes to their football program, they put, scholastics ahead of it, and you have to maintain a certain grade point average, and that's why they can't get the top tier athletes, because the top tier athletes can't maintain that sort of grade point average and still be able to be an athlete. They get a lot of flack because they have to stick with the way that they are, being a Catholic college and all of that other stuff. And being that you can't bring a guy like Urban Meyer onto the sidelines with his past, with the things that he's gone through, with his indiscretions. You can't do that, especially at Notre Dame, let alone, I don't think that really, to be honest with you, I think he's done as a head coach, unless it's some minor college out there. I don't think, other than the fact that if you're like a North Carolina who wants to sell tickets and maybe have a chance at possibly, getting to a New Year's Day bowl game, not a playoff, but at least a New Year's Day bowl game, you're going to hire a guy like Urban Meyer. You're going to do the things that you talked about, turning a blind eye to the lap dances, doing that sort of stuff. I don't think any program worth its weight in gold, no pun intended, is going to even give Urban Meyer a second look. I just don't. I don't think that with what he's done, the indiscretions, not only with the lap dances, but I'm talking about, kicking players. I mean, if you're willing to do that to pro athletes, what are you willing to do to college athletes? These are the things that, right now, and not only that, but now, recruiting is really not that big of a deal anymore, right? Because you're not worried about recruiting as much as you were back when Urban Meyer was doing the recruiting and having recruiting scandals, because now everybody can pay their players. And now that everybody can pay their players, now it's just basically, how much can you pay me? So what would anybody need to go ahead and look at Urban Meyer? I don't think he makes that much of a difference as a head coach in college football. I think college football is more about the recruiting classes and what you can put together and what you can build over the course of a 4-year stretch. I don't think that Urban Meyer brings that much to the table anymore.
I disagree. So I understand what you're saying with the paying the players, but as we know, the universities aren't paying the players anything. It's the alumni and the people like that. But if that's really the case, if that's really going to be the deciding factor in recruiting, then look out. UCLA is about to win 10 national championships because it's all those LA people with all that money. They're going to be bringing these kids in, except you know what? UCLA is never even going to be in the playoff ever. So because nobody really cares that much about the money. It is about going and winning and showcasing your talent so you can make it to the next level. The money's nice, but really you want to get to the NFL because that's really where the money is. Who cares about $25,000 to wash cars when you can get $7 million a year in your rookie contract? So I think that a team, and you say small college, I think a big college will take a chance on him. And I do understand your concern with Notre Dame with the lap dances, but he wasn't really doing anything illegal. So that's not going to discourage an Auburn. That's not going to discourage a team like, I don't want to say other big schools,
Alabama.
Oklahoma State. Not Alabama because Nick Saban's in gold there. He's a statue. But, nobody's going to be worried about that unless they are like a religious school. So that might be the only thing with him. But his record is everything. And I think he was an assistant coach at Notre Dame at one point. So I think that he could go back there as a head coach and win a championship. And as long as he stays out of trouble for a couple of years, they'll be totally fine with his past.
Yeah, and see, I just don't know. I don't know that any program, worth their weight is really going to look at this guy for those simple reasons of, the indiscretions, the things that he has done that are, not necessarily illegal, like you said, but immoral for sure, and things that you don't want to really facilitate to younger kids coming up into your program. Even if you do, say Urban Meyer walks into your kid's house and he's at, let's say he's at, say he goes back to Florida, probably not, but say he goes back to Florida. If your kid is looking at Florida and Urban Meyer walks into your house, do you believe a word that's coming out of this guy's mouth?
No, but I'm just looking at his reputation as a coach. I'm looking at the school's reputation at producing NFL players. I don't really care about what he says about grades. I don't care what he says about morality. All I care about is, can you take my kid to the NFL? If you can, cool. He'd love to go there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it. On the other side of the ball, though, we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars now. They're on the head coaching search. Who do you think should be their number one target?
Who do I think? It's the person I think should be the number one target is somebody who they can't offer enough money to. and that's Josh McDaniels. I think that he is the best offensive mind in the NFL. I think you've got a young quarterback with just buckets of talent, so why would you not bring in the best offensive mind to coach him up? However, and they have tons of offensive weapons too. Josh McDaniels would have a field day with Jacksonville's offensive weapons. However, Jacksonville's still not a great destination. Their defense is absolute trash. They're a team that's probably going to go, 3-14 or 4-13 again next year. They're not ready to win yet. So if somebody's going to take that head coaching spot, it's got to be somebody who just desperately wants to be a head coach and doesn't care whether they win or not. So I would look at somebody like Eric Bieniemy, who's been passed up 4 years in a row. He's probably somebody who'll jump all over it if he's offered it.
Yeah. I don't want to see Eric Bieniemy go there because I want to see Eric Bieniemy take over the Bears head coaching position. I know the Bears have a long way to go. They got to find a new GM before they find a new head coach, but I that's the guy that I want to see. But he would make a lot of sense. Another guy that would make a lot of sense over there is Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich going back to Jacksonville, a program that he knows. Byron Leftwich. I see. This is where it's kind of a rock between a hard place, right? Because Byron Leftwich makes so much sense when you talk about a head coaching position for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's the only spot he makes sense for because of his history with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then even after that, I don't think Byron Leftwich does enough with that team to even make them relevant again, because I don't know how good of a coach Byron Leftwich really is. Is Byron Leftwich really a very good offensive coordinator right now? Or did he just luck out and get Tom Brady and all of his friends to come along? Like, those are the things with Byron Leftwich that would scare me if I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars. But to me, Byron Leftwich makes the most sense.
Well, and I think you hit the nail right on the head. If I'm the general manager of the Jaguars, I bring Byron Leftwich in. He has to really wow me in that interview because I have not seen him develop young talent because he hasn't had to. He's had a star-studded team, including not just Tom Brady, Mike Evans and Godwin and Fournette, and the defense is loaded. The whole team's loaded, and so I haven't really seen him do anything yet in terms of building a young team. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't hire him, but I'm saying he'd have to have a really good interview.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that's why I think that would be the only interview I think Byron Leftwich would even get, to be completely honest with you. I don't think any other team looking is going to even look twice at Byron Leftwich. But the Jacksonville Jaguars are a team that they have a lot of weapons. They've got a quarterback who they highly believe in, who a lot of people highly believed in coming out of college. I was not one of those people, but a lot of people believe in him. A lot of people still feel like he's having a great season, despite all the stuff that they're going through. So they've got weapons, they've got pieces. They just need somebody that can mold those pieces into shape. And I'm not really sure who that candidate is right now. I mean, to be honest with you, I agree with you. I think, Eric Bieniemy is probably the prime focus going to be for Jacksonville Jaguars, because that's exactly who I would go after. But I guess we'll see. I guess time will tell. There's a lot of time left in the NFL season. We got playoffs to go still. So it's going to be a lot of time. We're going to see some stuff come out about this spot opening up. But we're running a little bit late here for our first break. So we're going to go ahead and get to our first break. And when we come back, we're going to get to the Week 15 in the NFL. Stay tuned. A lot of surprises. A lot of crazy things happened today. We'll be right back. And we are back. What is going on, Man Hour Nation? Got a lot of stuff going on in the chat. I see Jared's in the chat. What's going on, Jared? I see Buck's out there. Michelle's out there. What's going on, guys? Drew is back. Drew, happy to have you back, bud. And then we've also got One Pride 40, who's a Lions fan here, Wayne. And he says Lions win fatality. and you know, that's one of the things that I definitely want to get into here. It's one of the things that for me is really one of the stunners of the day. So we're going to get into that here in a minute. But first, I want to get something that's going to hit close, near and dear to your heart.
Yep.
And first, near and dear to your heart is the Patriots' loss to the Colts here. You know, look, the 27-17 was a lot closer than what the score indicated. Oh, I guess it depends on how you look at it, right? Because they were down, I believe it was 20-0 at one point, wasn't it? And and they came back, made a game of it, and then, you know, down in the red zone late in the game, and the game on the line, and Mac Jones throws a pick, uncharacteristic of Mac Jones, but, you know, turnover there, and ultimately the Colts win this game 27-17. Was this a good loss for your Patriots?
No, I don't believe there's a such thing as a good loss. I mean, unless you're a team that's like riding high and you think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, you need to be brought back to reality. But are we really thinking that the Patriots, who is the most prepared coaching staff in the league, the most prepared players in the league, going up against a team that's been crushing teams the past few weeks, that they went into that game lighthearted thinking that they're on top of the world? I don't think so. Not at all. So I don't think it was a good win. Not at all. I think that, if anything, I think that it's a learning experience. But you know who the biggest learning experience is for? Coach Bill Belichick, because he shouldn't have kicked that field goal. I know that they're down at the 4-yard line, the 3-yard line. He should have gone for a touchdown, because when he went for that field goal, I'm like, you're going to get another touchdown, and then you're going to need to get a 3-and-out, or you're going to need an onside kick. Whereas if you miss the touchdown try, then you get another touchdown. You're in the same boat either way. So go for the touchdown.
I don't know. Like, I actually do think that this was a good loss for the Patriots. I think that they kind of needed that smack in the mouth. I think they needed that game where Mac Jones was going to make that mistake so he can learn from it. He hasn't really had that game yet this year. And so for me, I think that this was a good loss for the New England Patriots. Do I agree with going on it for fourth down? No, and we're definitely going to talk about that later as well. I think going for the touchdown there instead of taking the points, to me, is not a great call, especially when you have a rookie quarterback, right? Take the points, head in overtime, take your chances in overtime, especially on the road, especially in a place like Indianapolis, which is a very tough place to win. Lucas Oil is a great stadium. The Colts fans always show up in droves, and that place is packed every single game, and they are loud. And so for me, think that it was a good loss for the Patriots, because I think that from this, Mac Jones is going to take a lot from it, to be honest with you. I don't think that you'll ever see him make that bad read again like he did last night. I think that was his learning curve, right? Because you've got two types of quarterbacks, especially two types of rookie quarterbacks. You've got quarterbacks who will come in like Mitch Trubisky, right? Let's say, for example, since I'm a Bears fan, that's what I've watched over the last 4 years. You watch Mitch Trubisky come into a game and he throws an interception, and you know that that's just going to lead to 2 or 3 more interceptions. Or if he throws an interception late, like you saw Mac Jones do, you know it's going to carry over into the next game. But then you watch a guy like Mac Jones, a guy like Justin Fields that I've watched this year as well. You watch them throw an interception, and then the very next drive, they lead their team downfield. The very next drive, that interception is gone. It's in the past, and they're moving forward. And that's what I see from a guy like Mac Jones. That's what I see from guys, you know, some of these quarterbacks who look like they're going to have bright careers in the NFL. And that's why I think you allow them to kick the points there and go to overtime. Because you've got a quarterback who is not going to put you in a position to lose, right? So you know you have a quarterback that's going to put you in position to win, and that's what you want in overtime. Now, granted, maybe you don't even get to touch the ball in overtime. I get it. I get it. I understand That's why what a lot of coaches are thinking now in the NFL. That's why we, seen guys go for it, go for a 2-point conversion after scoring the game tying, almost game tying touchdown. All they need is the extra point to tie the game and send it to overtime. They go for 2 instead. But very few and far between do we actually see those plays work. So I would have kicked the points there.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I don't know what game you're talking about, because the Patriots weren't kicking for or going for a touchdown to take the lead. I'm talking about when they were down 20-7. When they were down 20-0, they got a touchdown. It's 20-7. They march back down to the red zone. They get to a 4th down on the 3-yard line, and Belichick takes the 3 points. Now there's still 8 minutes left in the game, 7 minutes left in the game. And my thought was, listen, if you kick that and you get the points, now you need a touchdown and a field goal to tie still. To tie, touchdown and field goal. You get the touchdown, you score a second touchdown, you win the game, right? So either way, I think that it just made more sense to go for that touchdown when you're down 20-7, and rightfully so, because they got that second touchdown and they were down 20-17, where they would have been up 21-20 if he'd gone for that touchdown and gotten it.
Right. What I'm talking about with the Pats and Colts is run the ball. Don't put your quarterback in that position where you're at on the field to make that mistake that he made last night, right? Now, granted, you're going to have a quarterback that's going to make mistakes. You're going to have a quarterback, especially a rookie quarterback, that does some things that you don't really anticipate him doing because he's a rookie, because he's going to make the wrong read. You put the ball in the hands of your very capable run game. They've shown you week in and week out as a very capable run game that can put you in position to tie that game. Instead, you have Mac Jones throw the ball, and he throws that interception late in the game. And then Jonathan Taylor puts it away, which, by the way, I think we had, and we'll get into this later too. I think we had 2 very damn good rookies show up in this game last night. So I felt like the play calling there from Bill was a little bit asking too much of Mac Jones and not enough of his run game, which has shown the ability to do the things that he needed them to do last night.
Well, I do want to say that the Jonathan Taylor touchdown was after a touchdown by the Patriots. It wasn't after an interception. So it was basically the Patriots gone to 2017. They decided to kick off instead of the onside. You just got to get 3 and out and you get the ball back with a minute and a half to go, but they gave up a touchdown. So who's the second rookie? You said Mac Jones. Who's the second rookie?
Jonathan Taylor.
He's a second-year player.
I think technically he's a rookie this year, right?
No, I thought he was a second-year player this year.
I could have sworn that. Well, maybe I'm wrong. All right, so maybe it's not
a maybe. It's definitely
okay.
You are.
So either way, Jonathan Taylor last night showed up, and Jonathan Taylor's been, I don't know what the hell, where he came from, how, I don't know. I watched him play. I've never seen him look as good as he's looked over the last 4 or 5 games. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is really taking control of this team. And I think that's opened up a lot of stuff for Carson Wentz, right?
For sure. And I can tell you where he came from. And that's Wisconsin, where he had back-to-back 2,000-yard rushing seasons and was a second-round pick. I mean, he should have been, the Patriots would have loved him. But, yeah, he's a great running back. And I love him a lot. And he's behind the offensive line, the Colts offensive line, which is really good. Even though they were missing their starting center, there's still a really good offensive line. And there's just, nothing you can do. The Patriots had really no answer for him. He had a couple of big runs. That one at the end was just icing on the cake. I mean, you open up a hole, you're basically in a 0 blitz. All he's got to do is beat the safety, which is easy when you run a 4-4.
So the Patriots lose, and that gives the Tennessee Titans an opportunity, which they flubbed today, to become the number 1 seed in the AFC. So the Tennessee Titans are one of those teams that really just surprises me a little bit, because they go into this game and what do they do? And I don't understand why teams haven't learned this, because their teams now, I believe, haven't had a win since they started doing it. But these teams that are having pre-game meetings, team meetings on the road, on the other team's 50-yard line on top of their logo. Why are we giving teams reasons to come out and want to smack us in the mouth when we should be handling them just fine? I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are not world beaters, and the Tennessee Titans have a chance to go into Pittsburgh, take a game from the Pittsburgh Steelers, knock them pretty much out of the playoff race in the AFC, and to take control of the number 1 seed again in the AFC. And instead, they get knocked on their ass. What is the point behind the meetings on the freaking logo?
I don't know. I don't get it, and I don't think it matters. I think we put way too much emphasis on it as fans. Like, oh, if they hadn't have done that, it wouldn't have mattered. It would have turned out the same way. It isn't extra motivation for the team at all to go out there and beat them up. I think that, again, we put way too much emphasis on that. You're a professional. Your job is to go out there and just smash your guy as hard as you can every time. It's different in a game like basketball where it's 5-on-5 and one guy can absolutely, if you talk shit about him, can completely destroy the game. But in football, you've got 22 guys versus 22 different guys. It doesn't matter. You're all going out there. You're trying to win. So I don't think that the dancing on the logo or meeting on the logo or, spitting on the logo, I don't think anyone really cares other than the fans. The players don't. But still, I don't understand the point of doing it in the first place. Just like it doesn't matter to that team that you're playing against. Why does it matter to you? Like, why do you have to do that?
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't make a ton of sense to me. Another thing that didn't make a ton of sense to me, and this is going to another game now, is going for 2 points. The Baltimore Ravens were down big, and when I started writing this this rundown here, there was like about 4 minutes to go in the Packers, so I like to wait till as close to the end of all the games as I can, so I can, if anything crazy happens, we can move it up or down in the rundown. And there was about 4 minutes to go, and the Packers went up by 2 touchdowns, so the game's over. So I wrote the rundown, and I was like, Packers beat the Ravens and blah, blah, blah. But the Ravens come back, and they bounce back, and they score what would have been the game-tying touchdown if they kick the extra point, if they make the extra point. Obviously, there's always that. Been a lot of missed extra points. But let's say a kicker makes the extra. Instead, you go for 2 points. You go for the win at home. You go for the 2 points. You go for the win a week after losing to the Steelers when you ran the same exact play that didn't work, and you lost that game as well. So now, instead of a team that finds themselves in prime position in the AFC playoff race, you're a team that doesn't even find yourself in first place in your own division. So I don't understand going for it for 2 there. I just, for the life of me, I don't understand it.
Unless Justin Tucker maybe sprained his ankle on the sideline and we don't know yet.
Yeah, maybe Urban Meyer came by and kicked him or something. Who knows? Maybe he got hurt. I for the life of me, I don't understand it. You've got one of the best kickers in the league. You're all you need to do is run it into overtime. Again, I get the idea of, hey, maybe we don't even touch the ball in overtime. Maybe you don't do this. What if this and what if that? And you know me, when it comes to arguments, I love playing the what if game, right? I always throw out the what ifs, the what if this and what if. This is not one of those times I would throw out the what ifs. This is one of those times, hey, look, we were down by 14 with 4 minutes to go. We're about to probably send this thing into overtime. And we're going up against one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Maybe we don't get the ball back, but maybe we do. I don't understand. All the momentum was on their side. They're at home. The crowd is going crazy. Everything is swinging their way. Why not just kick the extra point and go to overtime?
I didn't watch that particular game, but the only thing I could think of as a coach, if I were to make that decision, is if my running back was just carving up their front seven all night long, huge holes, never had less than a 2-yard gain. All right, I'll go for 2 because you haven't stopped me. Why would you start stopping me now? But I have a feeling that wasn't the case all game. And so It doesn't make any sense at all to not send it into overtime. Like you said, maybe you get the ball back, maybe you don't. Maybe you get it first, you score a touchdown, the game's over. Right? So
and then you run the same exact play that you ran last week trying to go for it on 2 that failed. The same exact play. They knew it was coming. The guy that they tried forcing the ball to, Mark Andrews, was double covered. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even close. They didn't even have a chance to work. I don't understand it. We're seeing it a lot more in the NFL. We're seeing it a lot more. I mean, Baltimore did it 2 weeks in a row now. We're seeing it a lot more in the NFL. We're seeing teams go for it a lot more on 4th down. sometimes I agree with it, but this is one of those times where I for the life of me, I don't understand it. And now the Ravens find themselves not even in first place in their division. I'm gonna ask you this: they started this season what were they 8-2, 8-3, something like that, and now they're at 8-7 or 8-6. Do they make the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they still win their division. I don't think they get a wild card. I think that AFC is so tough right now to get a wild card. You got to be ridiculously good. But I think that they still win the division. I don't really believe in Cincinnati. I don't really believe in Cleveland as much. So I think the Ravens, as long as Lamar Jackson's healthy, if it comes out that, Huntley's going to be the starter for the rest of the year, then no, they're done. But if Lamar Jackson comes back, then yeah, I still think they win the division.
See, I don't know how you can look at Cincinnati and say I don't believe in Cincinnati anymore. To me, look, they are a very tough team to figure out in the NFL. They're probably one of the hardest teams to figure out this season in the NFL is the Cincinnati Bengals. But look, Joe Burrows is the guy that they thought they were getting. Joe Burrows is doing things out in Cincinnati that is helping this team win. That defense is playing better as of late. The Cincinnati Bengals, I think, absolutely can win this division. And then when you look at the remaining schedule for the Baltimore Ravens, I mean, it's just not favorable. You got the Bengals next week, then you got the Rams, and then you got the Steelers again. The Steelers you've already lost to, obviously trying to go for it on two a couple weeks back, like we had talked about. Then you lost to the Browns, and now you've lost to the Packers. If they lose this game in Cincinnati, which it wouldn't shock me if they won, but it wouldn't shock me if they lost. The Cincinnati Bengals are not a great team at home. They're a much better team on the road this year. I don't know that they win another game. I just don't. You got three really tough opponents. So you don't have any gimmies left.
Right. Well, obviously, if they lose the next one, then I would say they don't make it. But I'm expecting them to win the next few and maybe lose the one to the Rams. I don't know, but I don't think they lose in conference. I think they beat the Steelers. They beat the Bengals. Maybe they lose the Rams. Maybe they beat the Rams. I don't know, but I think the Ravens are your division winner.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they were, but it wouldn't surprise me if they weren't. Something that does surprise me, though, the Detroit Lions. Mm-hmm. We had One Pride in here. We had Luke G in here, both Detroit fans. As Trent Mason chimes in, Trent Mason with the super chat here, $4.99 super chat. Appreciate it, Trent. Says, if Huntley trusted free agency, which team do you think offers? So let's get to that before we move over to the Lions. Ooh. So Huntley, you're talking about the backup of the Baltimore Ravens. Mm-hmm. Which team do you think makes offers?
A team that needs a backup.
God.
I mean, he's not going anywhere as a starter. That's for sure. He's going to go somewhere as a backup. Saints? I don't know. I mean, you got the two quarterbacks there already, and they're locked up, both of them, right? So
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily call Taysom Hill a quarterback out, though he did just put a ball in a perfect spot on a 30-yard pass. As I said that, but I wouldn't put Taysom Hill as a quarterback, and not even a backup quarterback. For me, he's a gimmick player. The Detroit Lions, as One Pride 40 says, I think Detroit would probably have to take a look at them. Although, they did put a lot of stock into Jared Goff, so I'm not so sure that's a route that they would went.
They're not looking at them.
Trying to think of teams around the league that would be a landing. I mean, the Jets, maybe.
We're talking about a backup, though. I mean, it's like, all right, who's he going to go sit the bench for? Who would he look the best holding the clipboard for? He's not going anywhere and starting. He's not even going anywhere and competing. He's not a starter in the NFL. I mean, Gardner Minshew's a better quarterback, and I would give him a shot before.
You don't think he could compete with Taylor Heineke for the starting job next season?
I guess, but I still think Heineke wins it. I haven't seen anything from Huntley that shows me he's better than Heineke.
I mean, they just led a comeback versus one of the best teams in the NFL, where he was down by 2 touchdowns with 4 minutes to go. I mean, he's shown a lot of poise in those, these couple of games that he's played in the absence of Lamar Jackson. It's not like they're losing by a ton. They've lost by 2 points.
And Matt Flynn, in the short time that he got to showcase himself, he threw for 7 touchdowns or whatever it was and 500 yards. And everyone's like, wow, let's give this guy starter money. And what happened? He lost his job to a rookie.
Yeah, it's true. I think Huntley's the real deal, though. I think that a team like the Saints or a team like Washington, maybe even a team like maybe Detroit. I don't really see it in Detroit. One Pride. I'm sorry, but maybe a team like Detroit would bring them in, but they bring them in to compete. And I think that in Washington, I think Washington. I think he would be out Taylor Heineke for the starting job in Washington. I think it'd be a good job. Thanks for that question. Thanks for the super chat there, Trent. Speaking of Detroit, though, they pull off the upset against the Arizona Cardinals, a team that I've said all year, preseason even, that this is the best team in the National Football League. And they're dealing with injuries. I feel like they went in there and they gave DeAndre Hopkins another week off, saying, hey, look, we're going up against the Detroit Lions. We probably don't need you this week, so take the week off. And then lo and behold, Detroit stomps a mud hole in Arizona. Is this a bad win for the Lions?
No. I mean, why would it be? What's bad about it?
They just lost the number one spot in the draft.
Did they? I mean, you got the Jets at 2-11, right? They're 2. No, the Jets are 3-11. They're 2-11-1.
Yeah, but the Jaguars are now over them. The Jaguars are now in the number one spot again.
Okay, well, either way, though, what does Detroit really need in the draft? And this is why they're not going to go after Huntley, because the Detroit Lions are taking a quarterback with their first pick in the first round of the draft, no matter who's on the board, because that's what they need is their future quarterback. Goff's going to be the gap guy next year, and then they can cut him for minimal dead cap the following offseason. So Goff's going to be there. He's going to mentor the rookie for a year, and he's out. So they're going to draft a quarterback. That's why they're not going after Huntley. So if they're drafting a quarterback, why is it bad that they lost?
I guess. I mean, that it's just the value of the number one pick. I mean, you can what the number one pick signifies and who you can trade it for and the things that you can do with that number one pick. I mean, in a season where you're clearly not competing for anything, in a season where it's just look, I'm with you. I don't think any win is a bad win. I just think it's an untimely win for the Detroit Lions.
But I'm saying it doesn't cost them anything in the draft. It literally costs them nothing if they drop one spot or two spots, because who cares? Are the Jets going to take a quarterback in the draft?
I think the value of being able, I think at number one for the Detroit Lions, I think you would trade that pick anyway. But that's what I'm saying. The value of the number one pick versus the value of the number two or the number three pick, it definitely differs.
I know. Well, the Jaguars aren't trading the number one pick. They're drafting Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon because they need that help on that defense. And so then you're talking about the Jets at 2. And they're still ahead of the Jets, I think, for the 2 pick. But let's say that the Jets, they win another game, and the Jets end up getting that 2 pick. And let's say the Lions are hell-bent on taking Malik Willis, who's my number one quarterback, by the way. Malik Willis should be the top quarterback off the board. Let's say they're hell-bent on taking him, and there's another team that wants to trade up with the Jets. Well, who's going to have more to trade? The 3rd overall pick or the 16th overall pick? So you didn't lose anything. You can still move up 1 pick. Yeah.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I think it was an untimely one for them. Again, your value decreases the further you drop in the draft. Obviously, your trade value decreases. Furthermore, for the Arizona Cardinals, I actually think this was a beneficial loss for them. And I know we say there's no such thing as a good loss, but this is a team that plays much better on the road. I believe they're still undefeated on the road this year. And they don't play as well in Arizona. So they dropped from number 1 to number 4 by losing this game today. And I actually think that helps them heading into the playoffs. I think that gives them, I think that's where their comfort level is at. I mean, it's clear as day to me that their comfort level is on the road and it's not at home.
This was the dumbest thing in your rundown that you sent me. It's like, do we want a first round bye? What? No, we want to play. All right. Well, where do we want to play? You want to play home so we don't have to travel? No, we want to travel. We want to play and we want to travel. We don't want to buy and we don't want to play at home. It's ridiculous. The number 1 seed is what everybody's gunning for. You get that week off. Everyone gets healthier. You get to play at home when the week's over. You don't have to practice somewhere else or fly somewhere else. You can just stay. And I understand what you're saying about them not having they're having a better record on the road, but no, the number 1 seed, losing that is never a good thing. Not even if you fell to number 2. It's not like the draft where it doesn't matter. It does matter in the playoffs because there's only one team that gets a bye in each conference this year.
Yeah, and they're not undefeated on the road anymore. Obviously, they lost to the Detroit Lions today, so they're no longer undefeated on the road. 7-1 on the road, and they are 3-3 at home. I just feel like this team plays better away from home. This team, there's something about this team when they're in Arizona, the things that they've done, the way that they've lost in Arizona too. I mean, you talk about their 3 losses to the Green Bay Packers, the Carolina Panthers, and the Los Angeles Rams. I see a lot of things at home where they're just like, they're not as competitive. It's almost like they lose that edge at home. It's almost like the home cooking and sleeping in their own bed actually hurts them. Like they feel like when they walk into the stadium in Arizona, their opponent is just going to wither for them. And that's not the case when they're on the road. When they're on the road, they show up for games, minus today, obviously, in Detroit. But I don't know. I think this is a different team on the road. I actually think it was a good loss for the Cardinals. Maybe they'll still end up with the number 1 seed, but I think that this loss here, much like I thought the loss for the Patriots, I think it was a loss that they needed. I think it was a good loss for them.
Yep, it's a bad loss. Dropping from 1 to 4 is a bad loss. It's not as bad a loss for the Patriots because they're still in first place in their division, but it still doesn't. This is just ridiculous. I think that losing the number 1 seed is definitely not a good thing. And it'd be one thing if you painted it as like, yeah, this was a team that was flying high and they really needed this. But you're saying no, it's really good because they're going to have way too much rest if they get that bye week. Guys are going to be way too healthy when they finally play.
Yeah, I mean, I guess agree to disagree here. We do that a lot, Wayne and I. So we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about is COVID going to shut down sports again? We'll be. And we are back. It's your man, BC Beastie Brandon Combs, along with Wayne G. Wayne, I'm starting to get a little bit scared with everything that's starting to surround sports with COVID. The NHL suspended all games now that are cross-border. So no American teams traveling into Canada, no Canada teams traveling into America. The NFL is moving games to try to help. They moved a couple of games over to Saturday. We're going to have a Monday night doubleheader. Is COVID about to shut down sports again?
I don't think so. I think it might shut down the fans again, where you're gonna have empty stadiums, which kind of stinks. But we see higher completion percentages, so I guess that's the plus, and it's more exciting to watch on TV. But I don't think it's gonna shut down the games themselves. I think you just may see stricter protocol and teams saying, "Listen, we understand you got the shots, you got the booster, but you still got to follow the same protocols everybody now, just to be on the safe side."
Can you imagine a Super Bowl with no fans?
Didn't they have one like 2 years ago? Last year, maybe?
No. Super Bowl had fans last year.
Maybe it was half capacity.
Yeah. But still had fans.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, can you imagine an empty stadium for the Super Bowl? Look, I hate the idea of no fans in the stands. I hate the idea more of not having any sports, So while I agree with you, I don't think it's going to shut down sports. I think that at some point we might have a 2 to 3 week hiatus in the sports. I think we might have a time where all the teams get sent home, put into quarantine, and say, hey, look, we're going to come back this date. This is the way the schedule is going to work, and then we'll be good to go. Everybody needs a quarantine. Everybody needs to do the things they need to do because they're saying this thing is a 3-week threshold. Let's do what we got to do to get things right, because the spike in cases is astronomical. Obviously we're not going to get into the numbers and what we think, but I think that that's what we're leading to. I think that a pause in the action for a couple of weeks is what we're leading to. I think no fans is a very realistic thing. I don't want to see it again. I hate it. I love the roar of the crowd. Look, I love going to games. I've been to 3 Blackhawks games this season already. I love the roar of the crowd. I love, being in that atmosphere. I love the national anthem with the crowd cheering and everything that goes on during those games. I hate sports without it. And this thing, we just got to get control of it. Like the whole thing is starting to wear on teams. You've got some teams this week that are, even though they moved the games till Tuesday, might be playing out without 8 or 9 starters. And these are all playoff teams.
Well, you may hate sports without fans. I hate not having nice things. But when you have kids, you can't have nice things. And unfortunately, we have 400 million children in this country, so we can't have nice things like sports. Sorry, everybody.
You get into the whole aspect. Look, Aubrey's been home all week. She tested positive, so dealing with that. She plays sports. She's on a volleyball team, travel volleyball. She plays sports, and all the teams now have had to. Both of her teams have had to quarantine because of it. So I understand it. I understand what's going on. I understand the severity, if you will. I understand the things that people are saying about things. But man, I would really hate to get to that point. But I do think that that's where we're headed. I think, I think a Super Bowl with no fans is a very realistic possibility. I think the rest of the NHL season played like it was last season, with only Canadian teams playing in Canada and only American teams playing in America, is a very real possibility. I think a Stanley Cup final with no fans is a very real possibility. It's just hard to go at these things, because you look at what's going on in society and you look at the things that are happening in our world, and sports usually brings that stuff together, right? Sports is usually the escape and the haven where it doesn't matter your political affiliation, it doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter, what you do for a living. It just matters that at that point in time, for those 3 hours, you're cheering on your team. And that's what sports brings us. Sports brings us together. Sports brings everything together without all of the realities of the world that are going on for those 3 hours or those 2 hours, however long the game should take. And to not have that is a depressing thought to me.
I agree. And I think that with all the talk about mental health surrounding the whole COVID thing, I think that definitely sports won't go away because of those reasons that you said. The sports aren't going to go away. They're going to stick around. We're going away. We're not going to be able to sit there and watch them play. And it makes sense. But you know what the best part is? That even with no fans, it's not going to affect the COVID numbers because 40 people will still cram into a trailer home to watch the Super Bowl with no masks on, even though half of them tested positive the week before.
Why do they got to be in a trailer home, Wayne? I
don't want to speak to what demographics vote which way or feel which way about the COVID thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we can get into because Aubrey tested positive, I had to go test. And I was funny because I asked my doctor a question and he was like, huh. And it was surprising to me because I actually expected him to halfway have an answer for me, right? So I asked him, I said, Doc, I said, look, I said, I got tested I got the vaccination back in April. Vaccinated, both shots, everything, and everybody says that if you're vaccinated, you're good to go. But every other week, we've got a new strain that comes out. How am I still vaccinated?
Well, that's why they have the booster shot, right? It's supposed to help you strengthen that immune system against more, I guess, different variants of the strain and all that other stuff, or different strains.
Well, not Omicron, because Omicron gets past it.
Okay, well, then they'll come up with another booster for that.
That's what I'm saying. So basically what you're going to say is every 4 months we just got to go get a new shot. But my question to him was just like, how are we vaccinated? Logic to me tells you that, in a time where it's normally the flu season, height of flu season, and people are getting sick and people are getting the flu, and all of a sudden we've got this strain of COVID that is weaker than the actual strain of COVID, but gets past and doesn't work with the COVID shot, would probably tell me that maybe it's the flu. But that's just logic, right? You can't think logic when it comes to science. You can't think logic when it comes to laws. You can't think that way. Everybody's got their own opinions, and that's fine. Like, I'm not here to debate whether or not, everything is real or what you see, because it's clearly a real thing. People die from this stuff. People get really, really sick from COVID. So I understand it all. I think that it's trending in a direction where we're going to lose everything that we love about our games, which is going to the events, which is being a part of the sports world, being at the stadium, watching our favorite players, cheering them on, high-fiving one another, doing all the stuff that we love to do while we're at the games. And I don't know, it's just a sad thought to me. That's all.
Yeah, well, it's our fault that we lose it. Like I said, we've got 400 million children in this country, and they don't want to listen to the adults who tell them what to do, right? And so they're just going to do whatever they want, no matter what. And I think of it this way: how would you feel about getting patted down to go to a movie, like having somebody pat you down? How would you feel about that? Probably wouldn't like it, right?
I mean, I guess it depends on the I mean,
not sarcastic, like, oh, if it was a hot person. I mean, like, no, you probably wouldn't like it. And the thing is, nobody would. But if you have to, because people are going to the movies and they're doing stupid things that require us to get patted down, then we're going to have to get patted down if we want to go to the movies. We need to hold each other accountable. So hold people accountable. The reason we're not going to be able to go to games, and the reason for these spiking numbers, is because nobody wants to take the precautions. Like, hey, we need to social distance. No, it's fine. That was like last month. Okay, we need to wear masks and play. No, only if you're not vaccinated. Just be safe. I went to a kids function the other day. It was like a choir, like a kids middle school choir, and it said on the door, masks mandatory in the building. It's a school, right? Masks. So there were probably 30 or 40 people that are not wearing masks, and they had to be told by the people, like, hey, you need to put a mask on. And they're like, oh, I got vaccinated. It doesn't matter. It just said on the door, everyone has to wear a mask. And everyone's being an asshole about it. And that's why we're going to lose fans in the stands, because people would rather be assholes and be themselves, which are assholes, than actually protect their fellow humans.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Look, I hear the analogy there with the 400 million, children in the world, and they're not doing what the adults are telling them to do. I feel like sometimes, though, the parents are just saying because I told you so, just because they don't really have an answer as to why it is, right? Like, it's just do it because I said. It's I don't think there's a real answer out there because I don't think they know the answer yet. I don't think that they've studied it enough. This thing's only been around for going on 2 years now. I don't think that they know enough about it yet. That's why they can't give you the answers. Logic tells me that if I got a shot prior to something that came out, that shot does not work for what just came out. So now we've got a booster shot. But then there might be more, and they're saying there are probably going to be more variants that come out. Then I don't think I'm vaccinated for that. But they tell you, the school told me when Aubrey came home, they told the students, hey, look, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to stay home. But if you're unvaccinated, you have to stay home if you were in her class. What do you mean? How do you know she doesn't have the Omicron variant? So now they're all exposed to the stuff that they're not vaccinated. That's what I'm saying. That's logic tells me that doesn't make sense, basically, is what I'm saying. Logic dictates that it doesn't make as much sense as what they're trying to make it seem like it makes. And it doesn't.
Because it's a game of telephone. Like I said, at the very top is somebody who's telling us everything we need to know. And then it gets filtered down through people who have their own agendas. So, and then it's filtered this way, it's filtered this way. And next thing you know, you have people arguing with each other about what they should do. Instead of everyone just like going to the top guy, I mean, like, all right, listen, you're the top guy. I don't want to hear it from Betty, my neighbor, because listen, I saw her screwing the mailman last week. So can you tell me what's the deal?
Well, here's the problem is that the top guy is making about $3 billion off of this. So I don't really think I believe him either.
Okay, well, you got to choose to believe somebody.
I choose to believe logic. That's what I choose to believe. What does logic tell you? What are, like, if you think about things logically and throw all the stuff out the window, throw all the information you've received from the doctors out the window, throw everything you've received from Betty out the window while she was screwing, her brother's neighbor, like throw all that stuff out the window and think for yourself and think logically about some of the things that you've been told and some of the things that they're doing. That's where I think that the difference comes in with, differing opinions and that stuff. And then obviously there's always the stuff that people, I only watch, this network, or I only watch that network. So that's where I get my information from. That's the stuff that it just, I don't know, drives me nuts. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get to another break before we get another week ban for talking about this stuff. We'll be right back. Give us 2 minutes. what is going on, Man Hour Nation? It's that time of day, usually a time where Mike Buck would drop in some cool music here. Instead, you hear me talking about the fact that we're about to play Way or No Way. I tried putting in the same system that Buck uses there, that was he use Streamlabs or whatever the case is, but I run everything off of a MacBook, so it just bogs everything down crazy slow for me, so can't use it. So I can't really run the same stuff that he does. So on Sundays, this is what you get, just me talking a lot.
And if you're new to the Wayne and Combs dynamic, this is actually Way, No Way, or Kind of Way.
Yeah. I mean, look, you know what? I should probably change that graphic there, huh?
Only when I'm on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Wayne, you ready to get into it?
I am.
All right. So first one here is one I'm sure you're seething to answer. Mac Jones is the clear Rookie of the Year.
So this was one that initially I was going to say Kind of Way, but because of the way that you phrased it, I'm going to say No Way. And I think he wins Rookie of the Year, but I don't think he's the clear choice for Rookie of the Year, because I think Jamar Chase has had a really, really good season and the Bengals are doing really well. However, wide receiver will never be as important as quarterback. And if Mac Jones can take this team to the playoffs as a rookie quarterback, that's more valuable. Therefore, he's the offensive Rookie of the Year. However, Jamar Chase is making it very unclear.
Yeah, look, those are both really good candidates. And I agree with you. Jamar Chase is having one hell of a year. I agree with you. Mac Jones is having one hell of a year. One other guy that you left out of there, though, and I don't know really how you left him out of there, is Najee Harris. Najee Harris is quietly putting together one hell of a year with a team in Pittsburgh that, without Najee Harris, probably wouldn't even be in the thought process of being in a playoff hunt. Najee Harris is almost I think he was at some close to 900 yards so far. He's probably, I would venture to say, he's going to be over 1,000 by the end of the year. And he is really putting the Pittsburgh Steelers offense in a place to excel on this little playoff run that they are about to have. And then you've got their last three games here against the Chiefs, the Browns, and the Ravens. The Chiefs, one of their weaknesses on the defense is the run game. And then the Ravens, obviously you can run it, and Green Bay showed it this week. Najee Harris showed it a couple weeks ago. You can run on the Steelers. You can run on the Ravens. There are things that Najee Harris is doing. I think that actually puts him, to me, right up there right now with Mac Jones as the Rookie of the Year.
I don't even think he's in the same category as Mac Jones, because running back's less valuable than quarterback. It's less valuable than wide receiver even. In fact, to the point that 1,000-yard season isn't even impressive for anybody, because it's 64 yards per game. Am I really impressed that you ran for 64 yards per game? Not really. You need to give me 100 yards per game for me to be like, all right, this guy's good. And if you're a rookie, you got to give me 80. But 64 yards a game, and in a 17-game season, it actually works out to more like 59 yards per game. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're not going to beat out a quarterback who's completing 70% of his passes and leading the league in completion percentage, or he's second behind Kyler Murray. You're not going to beat that guy out. I don't care how good of a running back season you're having, unless you step it up major these last three games.
Yeah, look, one thing Najee Harris doesn't have is one of the best defenses in the NFL, which constantly gives him the ball back. One of the things that Najee Harris doesn't have is Bill Belichick as his head coach. One of the things Najee Harris doesn't have is the benefit of playing in a somewhat weak division, the benefit of playing a somewhat weak front-loaded schedule. And so for those reasons, I do disagree with you. I think Najee Harris is up there. So I don't think Mac Jones is the clear runaway favorite for the Rookie of the Year. I think there's a lot of factors that go into the success of what Mac Jones has done this year. I am impressed with Mac Jones. I mean, he's 70% of his passes he's completing. He's thrown for, I think, over 3,000 yards to this point. So I'm okay with people who like you, who say that he's the clear Rookie of the Year. I feel like there's other candidates out there that are going to give him a run for his money. And I think other than Jamar Chase, I think Najee Harris is that guy. I think what Najee Harris is doing in Pittsburgh, to me, is more impressive because of the porous offensive line that he's running behind as well. I think that just, to me, I think he's done a little bit more for his team than what Mac Jones has done for the Patriots.
Yeah, I don't think so. Again, the quarterback, you have to look at the team went 8-9 last year with Cam Newton, and now they're going to win the division with Mac Jones. And you're saying that Najee Harris, who went to a team that went 13-3 last year, has done more for his team, getting them to go 10-7 than Mac Jones has done for his team.
They're doing more this year with guys who aren't opting out because of COVID. They're doing more because they're at full capacity. They're doing more because they've established their run game. They've got a really good offensive line in New England. They've got a really solid 1-2 punch with their running backs right now. They've got I'd say probably a top 3 defense in the league. Those are the things that, to me, help Mac Jones succeed more than what Najee Harris gets. So that's why, for me, it weighs more. So, I mean, look, it's one of those things where this is always one of those topics when it's a voting thing. I mean, you get into the whole thing. That's why I hate the college system, right? Because we go to the vote, and it's always going to sway to Alabama be 1-11. They'll still be in the college football playoff because they're Alabama. Like, I hate the voting system because it's open for interpretation. And that's what we have here. To me, if I'm voting right now, I have Najee Harris just a step ahead of Mac Jones because of the overall situation. That's all.
Okay. Well, we can agree to disagree. I do like your debate tactics, though, when you said there are people like you, Wayne, who think he's the clear-cut choice, even though I start off saying, no, he's not the clear-cut choice.
Taking a page out of your book there. That's all. All right. So moving on. We had a fight last night, sort of, kind of. Jake Paul. I hate this guy. Anyway, Jake Paul might make boxing relevant again.
No way. Darren Williams is going to make boxing relevant again. No, Jake Paul, he's fighting washed up guys, UFC fighters, celebrities. Let me see him fight like somebody who's a legit middleweight or whatever weight he fights at, like a legit top 5 guy, not even the number 1 guy. Give me a top 5 guy. If he beats that guy, I'll start to listen. He beats another one, then yes. But as of right now, because he knocked out Woodley, again, Darren Williams or Frank Gore could have knocked out Woodley. So I'm not that impressed with that.
Look, for $2 million, I'll dive and land on my face too and pretend like you knocked me out as well. I mean, hell, I'd do it for $1 million. You give me $2,000, I'll do it. It don't matter to me. But look, boxing to me is it's extinct. It's not even a sport that anybody cares about anymore. It's irrelevant. I don't even know who the heavyweight champion of the world is, let alone the middleweight or the lightweight champion is anymore. Back in the 90s, I probably could have named you all of them. But now it's just an irrelevant sport. You know what I did last night while that fight was on? I was watching the free show that they have for the UFC. I was watching their free event that had like 9 people in the stands. And because UFC to me is a more relevant sport than boxing is. I would have rather have seen what I saw last night out of the UFC in the octagon than what I would have seen coming out of Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul. And then the Darren Williams where he freaking, I don't know what he did. He went into a slap boxing fight and pushed the guy through the ropes. Like I mean, fighting Frank Gore, who's like 185 years old. Like I don't know what the hell that was. That's why to me, boxing's just, it's not what it used to be.
Well, you need the right person in it. If you get somebody in there who's knocking people out in the first 3 rounds, like Tyson was doing, you get another Tyson, you'll get people interested again. Because why do people watch the UFC? The more likelihood of seeing a knockout. Nobody wants to watch Royce Gracie fight, even though he might be one of the best of all time, if not the best of all time. Nobody wants to watch him because you're going to watch a guy on his back for 15 minutes. So everyone wants to see the knockouts. They want to see the punches. And if you get a knockout artist in boxing, you're going to get people who tune in to watch that guy. I mean, people tuned in to watch Mayweather because we wanted to see him get knocked out, but he was the equivalent of Gracie, where he would just kind of defense. You get somebody in there again, first 2 rounds, knockout for 15 straight fights. You go 15-0 with knockouts in the first 2 rounds. You'll get people watching boxing again.
People tuned into Mayweather, but It was. You're probably right. It probably was because people wanted to see Mayweather get knocked out. I mean, I was always looking forward to seeing it happen, even though it never did. I just think boxing has kind of dribbled itself with the fact that, number one, we never knew who the hell he was facing. We didn't know who Floyd Mayweather's opponent was until he fought freaking Conor McGregor. Like, I didn't know who the guy he was fighting. I didn't know the guy's record. I didn't know how big of a fight it really was. And it's because boxing has come to a point where it's about where the money's at in Vegas. It's about what's going to happen with the money, where the line is at, and that's what's going to determine how the fight ends or where it ends. And that, to me, is where boxing is really having its downfall.
Yeah, I think McGregor had the chance to kind of get boxing back up if he wanted to stick with boxing instead of the UFC, because he did give Mayweather a pretty good run. He just got tired out, which is what happens when you fight Mayweather. But McGregor has that, has that personality where you're like, hey, I want to see this guy do really well or do really bad. But I love watching him run his mouth for the whole press conference leading up to it. And then getting into the ring, he's fun to watch fight. And we'll get into Tiger Woods later, but like Tiger Woods is fun to watch play golf. And that's why everyone tunes in when he's in contention, because he's fun to watch. Right now, I don't think boxing's dead. I think it's just missing somebody who's fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned Tiger Woods here, because we're going to move on to the next one here. This was a tournament. The PNC was something that for me, I was mesmerized by the whole thing. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I was watching, these players play with their kids and do the things. I mean, John Daly and his son ultimately won the tournament. But watching Tiger and Charlie, to me, was just so much fun this weekend. Watching the things that they can do. And I've had people come at me when I talk about Tiger. Oh, how can you support a guy who's done the things that he's done and made the decisions? Look, because he's freaking human. And he's still the greatest golfer that we have ever seen in our entire freaking lives and probably ever will see. But then I watched Charlie this weekend. And the way this 12-year-old kid handles himself, like, I'm embarrassed at my golf game when I watch 12-year-old Charlie Woods play golf. So let me ask you, Charlie Woods will be better than Tiger?
Incredibly stupid question. It's obviously no way here. No way. You can't even make a case for it because, like you said, he's 12. First of all, he's not even the best 12-year-old in the country. He's not even the best 12-year-old in Florida, So there's a lot of 12-year-olds who play like he plays. In fact, when Tiger was 12, he was routinely shooting under par. He got invited to the Honda Classic when he was 16. I mean, we're talking about the greatest golfer of all time. And you're like, hey, you think this kid who hit a couple good shots on TV, is he going to be the greatest golfer of all time? I don't know. Right? Probably not. I mean, odds are saying no. He could be, but odds are no. And so I'm going to say no way. It's not even close.
Yeah, this is one of those times. I mean, there's a lot of them, Wayne, where you make me wish that it was Soup Boss here sitting next to me and not you. Because Soup Boss, just kidding, Wayne, I love you. But Soup Boss thinks that actually Charlie is going to destroy all of Tiger's records. And look, I watch golf closely. I watch a lot of golf. I love the game. And the things that I'm seeing from Charlie Woods at a young age remind me of a lot of things that we were seeing from Tiger Woods at a young age. You see all the videos, you see all the things he was doing. Is he going to be better than Tiger, though? It's tough to say, right? Because it's, is Bronny going to be better than LeBron? Is, Michael Jordan's son is never going to touch Michael Jordan, so you watch these guys come up and play after their fathers. We see it a lot in baseball now with Vlad Guerrero Jr. You've got a lot of players. Dante Bichette's son is now playing, Bo. And you see a lot of these players and you're like, wow, they could be better than what their fathers were. And Vlad Guerrero's a Hall of Famer. But Vlad Guerrero Jr. to me is light years so far in his career ahead of where his father was at this point. And when you watch Charlie, it's really hard because you're talking about the greatest we have ever seen in our entire lives. And that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of stuff to put on a kid who is only 12 years old. That kid might wake up tomorrow and decide he doesn't even like golf anymore. He still hasn't even discovered women yet. And his father could probably teach him a lot about that. But I don't think that that Charlie right now, I don't think that he's going to be better than Tiger, but I don't throw the possibility completely out the window.
No, I don't either. I don't want to say no, absolutely not. But like I said, the odds are against him. I mean, the odds are against him that he'll even be the best player of his age group when he gets older. We don't know. He might not be. And like you said, to put him up against the greatest of all time, I mean, people don't realize because there's a generation that has only known hurt Tiger. They haven't known healthy Tiger. And I'm going to tell you guys something. They played the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, and no one had ever shot 10 under for an Open before. And Tiger shot 13 under, and second place shot +2. All right, we're talking about a juggernaut of a player. Like when we talk about Wilt Chamberlain's records, Babe Ruth, Wayne Gretzky, Tiger Woods, the stuff that he did, you would have to see it or you wouldn't believe it was real.
Yeah, it was, God. Watching Tiger Woods, early Tiger Woods, young Tiger Woods, you watched every single weekend because you didn't know what he was going to do next. And you watched every single weekend because you knew you were going to see something special on the golf course. And so, yeah, I have a hard time thinking we're ever going to see that again, let alone see it from his own son. But Charlie looked good this weekend. John Daly's son looked amazing this weekend. They looked very good. And so, I mean, they set the record for the PNC with a 27 under this week. So that's crazy to me. I haven't even hit 27 under in golf on the PlayStation.
Well, John Daly's another fun one, right? Anybody who can hit a 370-yard drive with a cigarette butt hanging out of his mouth, a giant gut, and a beer in his hand. Like, we love that
He's
guy.
the American dream, right?
He really is.
All right. So moving on to the next one here. Sorry, I lost my place here just a little bit. Moving on, next one, last one we got here. And I've seen this a lot over the last couple of weeks, right? It's the NCAA transfer portal. And lots of players are going from here to there. There's a lot of talk that players are going to follow any coach wherever they go, whether, it be Dabo, whether it be, some of the coaches that have already left. The transfer portal to me is starting to become the free agency wire, right? Like you're just looking at who's next, who can pay more money, where do you want to go, where do you want to land, where would you rather play ball at, as opposed to where are you going to school. So let me ask you, Wayne, is the NCAA transfer portal just college version of free agency?
No way. Not yet. I think it could be, but not yet. And I think the reason is a lot of the guys we're seeing in the transfer pool are guys who were benched or guys who are on the bench or have been for a little while. As far as players leaving to go wherever the coach is going, they should have been able to do that all along. It's the douchebag NCAA, who wouldn't allow it. But if a guy comes to your house and sells you on playing for him and then leaves, if you want to follow him, you should be allowed to follow him. Like that's fine with me. But I think where it will become the free agency market is when we start to see guys who are starting for Alabama, like Bryce Young. If Bryce Young now transfers to Notre Dame next year, even though he's the starter on the top team in the country, like that's when it becomes free agency. But as of right now, it's just the kids who aren't playing trying to go somewhere where they will play.
The reason why I disagree with you. So they announced, I want to say it was back in April, the fact that they were going to start allowing the NCAA to pay its players. And I think that's when it was. I think that's when everything passed. But since then, 411 players have entered the transfer portal. 411. And that's more than, and that's just college football.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even, that's not basketball, not baseball, not hockey. Like none of the other sports are included in this. This is the college football transfer portal. 411 players. That's insane. And to me, that's all that is at that point. That is, hey, look, I don't want to play here. And I'm not saying I don't like it. I kind of do like it. I kind of do like the fact that if a coach can say, hey, you know what, this school is about to offer me $100 million. Sorry, guys, I'm out of here. No reason why a player can't do the same thing. No reason why a player can't say, hey, look, coach, I know you wanted me to come play here, but look, Nick Saban and Alabama called and they're willing to put up another, $350,000 for me for the next 3 years. Sorry,
think
I'm out.
I think the false narrative that you painted there, though, is that these 411 was after the NCAA announced that it could pay its players, like that somehow influenced it. It's not. It was actually the NCAA's decision that you don't have to sit out a year anymore, which only basketball and football had that rule. Nobody else had that rule except for those two sports because those are the biggest money sports, right? But so once they waived that rule and said you can transfer anywhere you want and you can play right away that year, that's when you get the 411. And again, a lot of those guys are just going somewhere where they can play right now. And you're talking about 411 out of 7,000. So it's not like 1,000 out of 7,000. So like I said, it's not yet. I do think it is trending that way. And I will consider that when we start to see a starter at a major Division I school transfer to another major Division I school. But so far, we haven't seen that happen yet.
Yeah, like I said, I don't deserve. It's not that I don't like it. It's not that I don't like the idea of college players being able to go wherever they want. I just think that it's trending in that direction. So that's the end of Way or No Way. We are going to take another quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get into some more Week 15 NFL stuff, and we're going to get to Shop Talk. So, guys, start thinking about what you guys want to hear us talk about during Shop Talk. You guys want to hear us talk about how Wayne does not believe that Die Hard is a Christmas movie? We'll talk about that. He's completely wrong, but we'll talk about it. We'll be back here in 2 minutes. And we are back. As Drew chimes in and says Chris Godwin got injured tonight during the Sunday Night Football game. I did see that, but I did also see him run off and run into the tent. So I'm not so sure it's an ACL. But we'll see how that goes. So speaking of Week 15 in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Giants today. Wasn't a very impressive win over the New York Giants. There was a lot of struggles, a lot of things that the Giants did wrong to lose that game as well. Cowboys didn't impress me too much this week, but they are a very impressive team. That defense is really, really good. That defense is really stout. Is Dallas the team that nobody wants to see come to playoff time?
No. And while I do agree with you that the defense has looked better at times, and I wanted to shout out to Drew, who said Micah defensive player of the year, which that one is a clear cut. There is no second place there. He's dominating. But I do think that the team that nobody wants to play is Indianapolis, because that defense is so fast. I watched them play the Patriots and they close down quick, and their secondary comes up and they put big hits on people, and their guys get through the line. Their front seven just gets right through the offensive line. And then they have that top offensive line. They've got Taylor, they've got Michael Pittman, they've got T.Y. Hilton, and Carson Wentz is looking good. So if I'm any team in the NFL and I'm thinking, who do I really not want to play in round one? It's Indianapolis.
Yeah. I don't think that the Cowboys are the team that nobody wants to face come playoff time. I think, look, we've talked about this a lot on this show, and that is parity in the NFL has been absolutely the best we've ever seen it, right? Because there's never been a season where we've seen teams that we just didn't know week in and week out who was a clear-cut favorite. Obviously, you see teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars. You see teams like the Detroit Lions on your list. That's fine. But when it comes to your top tier teams, there's no real team that stands out as like, hey, this team is elite. This team is the team that is going to win everything. I think I've seen in the chat earlier that somebody said, I don't care if it was a close game today. I think that the Packers are the clear-cut Super Bowl favorites. And that I don't know that that I agree with. I don't think that there is a clear-cut team. I don't think there's a clear-cut team that you don't want to face in the playoffs. Maybe the Colts are one of them. I think the Patriots are one of them. I think that's a team nobody really wants to see on their schedule come playoff time. I think that the Arizona Cardinals are a team that scares you because of what they're capable of doing if they're fully healthy come playoff time. Those are few and far between. But I think that everybody this year is beatable. I don't think that there's a team that we expect to 110% see in the Super Bowl this year. I never bet against Tom Brady, but I also wouldn't put any money on the Bucs to repeat this year either. So I don't know if the Cowboys are that team. They do scare me. Trayvon Diggs is unbelievable. Micah Parsons is a beast, and Drew is absolutely right. But there is nobody other than Micah that is going to win Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. And so I don't think that there's any team that nobody wants to face.
I disagree with that, because like I said, I think nobody wants to play the Colts. I really think nobody wants to play the Bucs. I mean, as much as I know you say, well, I wouldn't bet on them. Well, I'm not a betting guy in general, but if somebody says gun to your head, you have to put money down now, it's on the Bucs, because they're the defending champions. And I don't know a single team in the league that's like, oh, is Tom Brady still the quarterback? I want to play that.
That's true. That's true. Speaking of a team that maybe nobody wants to see, and maybe nobody is really talking about right now, but the Bengals survived in Denver today. Denver's a tough place to go in and win. Cincinnati found a way to do it, as they've done, a bunch this year. They find ways to beat their opponents, and they stay in games. They're never really out of a game. Even in their losses, they haven't really been handed that just beat down. And so are the Bengals actually a dangerous team?
No, dangerous teams don't squeak it out against Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy
Bridgewater got hurt in the second half, and then it ended up going to the hospital.
Oh, okay. So they struggled against his backup. And
they struggled against their defense.
Okay. So the thing is, the Bengals defense isn't great. They do have a lot of offensive weapons. I love Joe Burrow. I really do. I think he's a leader on the field. I think he's a great quarterback. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, great weapons on the outside. Joe Mixon's a great running back. So I think that they've revamped that offensive line, which was absolute crap last year. So they've got a lot of offense, but they've got the 17th ranked defense in the NFL right now. They're giving up 23 points per game. And as we know, when it comes to the playoffs, defense is what wins those games. And this team is not dangerous in the playoffs because they are going to get blown out by somebody.
Well, they got the Ravens, Chiefs, and Browns coming up over the next 3 weeks. They're leading their division. And obviously, this game versus the Ravens, I mean, it goes without saying. It's. I feel like I'm saying in order for a team to win, they have to outscore their opponents when I say this. But that game is going to determine the division. And I think the Bengals win that game, but then they've got the Chiefs and then they got the Steelers, or the Browns, I should say. They've got a pretty tough back end of the schedule. If they go 3-0 down this stretch, you beat Kansas City while Kansas City is rolling. You beat Baltimore, you take the division away from them, and then you beat the Browns, probably knock them out of a wild card spot in week 17. They go 3-0. Is this a team that scares you come playoff time?
Depends on how they win those games. If they're winning 41-38 and 29-27, nope. Because defense wins in the playoffs, and they have proven they cannot play defense. So if they win a couple of defensive battles here, if they shut down Kansas City, all right, now I might be a little intimidated. But if they're just winning shootouts, no, I'm not scared of them.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, again, Jamar Chase having a great year. You talked about him earlier when we were talking about Offensive Rookie of the Year. You got Joe Burrows out there is doing great things. Them two have a great chemistry. The run game's been better as of late, and their defense has been playing better as of late. You go in and you look at a team. I know you said that they didn't beat. They went in and struggled against Teddy Bridgewater, but they didn't. They went in and struggled in Denver, a tough place to play against a very good Denver defense that's playing really good of late as well. So this is a team that to me, I think is just very underlooked. I don't think anybody's talking about them, and I think they're about to turn some heads. I think they're going to win this game against the Ravens. I think they will finish the season 3-0. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Raiders and Browns got moved to Monday. They'll play prior to Monday Night Football. I like the idea of watching, having a game when I come home from work at 5:00 and then watching that game and then watching the Monday Night Football game, regardless of who's playing. Luckily for me this week, I get to see the Bears play the Vikings. So I have a special rooting interest in the Monday Night Football game. Should the NFL just go to a Monday Night Football doubleheader every week?
No, it's too much football. I don't need to see 2 games on Monday, 2 games on Thursday, a couple games on Saturday. Let's let it breathe a little bit. We don't need this much NFL. I love the NFL. I don't even really like one Monday Night Football game. I know it's tradition, but dude, it's a work night and it starts at 8:20. Like, I'm not going to watch this game. I hate when the Patriots are on Monday night. So don't put 2 games on Monday night. Just awful.
I can't even believe those words just came out of your mouth. I can't believe that you just said too much football, too much NFL. I can't believe we're still on the air. I can't believe we didn't get canceled when you said that. The fact that, look, I want to see, they do this every year to open the season, right? There's always the Monday Night Football game on the East Coast, followed by the Monday Night Football game on the West Coast. So you get the 6:00 start, and then you get the 9:00 start, and you get to watch football all Monday night long. I like it. I think that you get the 2 Monday Night Football games. You totally do away with the Thursday night games. Thursday night games are irrelevant. Thursday night games are debacles. You usually have like the Panthers versus the Jaguars, or the Lions versus the somebody who's going to wipe the floor with it. Like, it's bad football on Thursday nights every single week. Every once in a while you get an okay matchup, and even then those games usually end up being pretty sloppy because both teams are on short weeks. And so I don't like the Thursday night game. I'm heavily in favor of the double headers on Monday night, though. The Saturday night games, I know you're talking about, they only do those after the college season ends. They'll play 2 Saturday games, and then they'll have their Sunday games. I'm okay with, whatever. Like, to be honest with you, I watched UFC last night. I didn't even watch any of the Patriots game whatsoever. Not one snap did I see last night. And then after
I could tell by the way you were reviewing the game.
And then after, see, you had to bring that up, huh? I was just gonna say it, and you had to go ahead and throw me under the bus there. I appreciate that. But after UFC, I got on Fortnite with my kids because it's Saturday night. Like, I want to hang out and do things that I want to do. I didn't care about the game anyway, so I'm okay if you do away with the Saturday, but the all day Sunday and then 2 Monday Night Football games, I think would be perfect. Do away with the Thursday night games. Do away with the Saturday night games. Sundays and Mondays are football nights. I like it just the way it is.
Yeah,
that's
You'd have to be like a super NFL fan. Then I guess maybe I'm not that guy because I'll be honest with you, if the Patriots aren't on, I'm probably not watching it.
Oh, see, I watch football from noon until 10 every single week. I watch football on Monday night. It doesn't matter who's playing. I watch the games.
Yeah, it matters to me. Yeah.
Well, I guess that says a lot about you.
It
Anyway,
does.
Eagles, Washington, Rams, Seahawks. I know if you don't like the doubleheaders on Monday night, you're really not going to like the doubleheader on Tuesday night. They got moved to Tuesday, putting all 4 teams on short weeks vying for a playoff spot. Is this a disadvantage for all these teams?
I don't think so. I mean, it's really not that much different than a Monday night game. Yeah, it's one extra day, but I don't think it really matters in the long run. Teams play on Thursday nights, so whatever. They've got to play. They got to play. I don't think any of them really look back to this particular week at the end of the year and we're like, God damn it. I think it's going to be like, whatever.
Yeah, I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I actually think, and I'm going to check the schedule right now, but I think that one of these teams actually plays Saturday night this coming week, which to me is a real disadvantage. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, the Browns. The Browns, Packers, Colts, Cardinals are on Saturday night this week. It's the Browns that got moved to Tuesday. No, Browns got moved to Monday night, right? Yeah, Browns got moved to Monday night. So nobody plays on Saturday, but it's still a short week for these guys. You go from Sunday to Thursday. That's a 4-day layoff. So Tuesday, Sunday, I guess is about the same layoff as a Thursday night game. You just hate to see it with these guys playing on a night that is not typically a game night. It changes up the routine as to what they do. Usually Monday's an off day, Tuesday's a light practice, Wednesday's a medium practice, Thursday's your heavy practice, Friday's your flight, Saturday's your walkthrough. Now, Wednesday's going to be your day off. Thursday's probably going to be a light practice. Wednesday's going to be a medium practice. And then Friday, you're going to be traveling. Saturday's going to be your walkthrough. You're not getting that heavy practice in as you normally would during a normal week. And so that's probably why you see sloppy football on Thursday nights, but at least that's from both teams. Both teams are at the same disadvantage when they play Sunday and Thursday. That's not going to be the same case when these teams go to play on Sunday. They're not playing each other again. They're playing other teams that are getting their full week's rest. And that to me is a huge disadvantage to these teams having to play on Tuesday night. I think the NFL just was not, again, like they weren't last year, fully prepared to deal with an outbreak, fully prepared to deal with something. What happens if a team is missing 9 or 10 players? Everybody's like, oh, well, that's what the practice squad is for. Really? Do you really want your playoff hopes hinging on your practice squad players having to come up and play a game for you because you had an outbreak? Do you really want to have that happen? I think what should have happened was the NFL should have planned an extra week heading between the playoffs and the end of the regular season for these games that need to be made up. And you could have done it just like baseball does, right? Hey, we're not going to play this game, but at the end of the season, if this game matters, we'll go ahead and we'll throw it on the schedule. We'll go ahead and we have a couple of days lined up, and these are the days that are lined up to be our if we need them days. And the NFL just failed to do it. They failed to do it last year. And they did the same thing that they're doing now. They move games around from Sunday to Tuesday. But let me ask you a question. If I've got a guy who on Thursday or Friday, they tell, look, if I test positive at work, I've got to wait 10 days before I take another test, right? Because that's the protocol. That's how long it takes. That's how long you got to wait. But the NFL, they're like, oh, you tested positive on Friday. Look, we'll just move the game till Tuesday. We'll give you like 1 or 2 extra days. We'll get you retested within 3 days, and if you're good to go, you can go ahead and play. Like that's the part of me again that I'm just like, look, this thing it just doesn't add up. What is the NFL doing here? And that's where I'm at with this. I just don't think the NFL was very well prepared to handle this situation.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd rather see them do this than do another week of football. Again, I can't take all the weeks of football, and then we got to have an extra week on top of that just in case.
There's only 16 weeks, 17 weeks of football.
it's 18 because every team gets a bye. Now you want to make it 19, and then you're going to want to make it 20 because they're going to want to have 18 games, and then we're going to need 21 because we're going to need another backup. It's just, listen, half the year does not need to be the NFL. Let's move on.
Why not? What else do you got to do? What else are you doing on Sundays?
Listen, I love Reese's peanut butter cups, but I can't eat them 3 meals a day. All right, like I need a break.
God. You love your daughter. You have to see her every day, right?
Listen, everybody with kids knows you need a break.
Fair enough. I'll let you have that one. We're gonna get to our last break, and when we come back, we are going to get into a little bit of shop talk. So, Drew, I see you still chiming in the chat. Buck, I know you're out there. One Pride 40, I see you still in the chat. So feel free to chime in. Let us know what you guys want to talk about. We're going to answer some of your questions. I'm going to yell at Wayne about Die Hard being a Christmas movie when we come back. Drew, I'm going to yell at you about your take on Reese Cups as well when we come back. We'll be right back. And we are back. What is going on? I just saw a stat on the Ravens, which kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier. Prior to entering today's game, there was a 76% chance to make the playoffs and a 68% chance to win their division. After the loss today, they went to a 50% chance to make the playoffs and only a 26% chance to win their division. Mm-hmm. That's crazy to me because, to me, if they beat Cincinnati next week, they win the division. So,
right,
to me, that's a 50% chance to win a division, right?
Well, I think right now, got the Cincinnati same record. Has the edge.
They got the same record. They're 8-6, but Cincinnati beat them.
I think Cincinnati might have beaten them, yeah, because when I was looking at the standings, Cincinnati was ahead of them. So I think that's what it's kind of like when you're playing cards, right? And they're like, oh, this person has a 27% chance of winning, and you're watching like the poker or whatever, and you're like, well, how can they win? You know.
And then an ace turns down the river, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, now they got 100% chance. Yeah, I get it.
Listen, if you're losing with pocket aces, you know, before the river's turned, you deserve that river ace.
I don't always agree, but I get what you're saying. All right, so it is time for some shop talk. Drew says Reese's Cups, and he gives the puking emoji, and he says, I love chocolate, I love peanut butter. They have no business being together. Well, you know what, Drew? You've got no business writing that sentence. You, sir, are out of your mind. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the snack of the gods. Chocolate and peanut butter is something that I imagine God put together himself and sent to earth for us, because that is the best candy in the world. How do you not like chocolate and peanut butter mixed? I just don't get it.
I don't get it either. I don't. It's like, hey, I like comic books and I like movies, but you really shouldn't put those two things together. I'm sorry. In 2008, when Iron Man came out, I was like, hello, Reese's. Give me some more of that.
Yeah, and then, speaking of movies, you don't think Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
I know for a fact it's not, but if you want to make your case for why it is, I'm glad to listen.
So, not only does the director in an interview say that it's a Christmas movie, not only is it centered around a Christmas party, not only twice, I believe, in the movie is he greeted with a Merry Christmas. I've heard other things Drew sent me. I know Drew sent me a video of Brett Young, the country artist. He asked Gavin DeGraw what his favorite Christmas movie is, and Gavin DeGraw says his favorite Christmas movie is Die Hard. So many people view this as a Christmas movie. If you watch, HBO, Showtime, those types of things, when they start putting on their Christmas movies and they filter in all these different Christmas movies, Die Hard is always in the rotation. Die Hard is absolutely a Christmas movie. The director of the movie says it's a Christmas movie.
Wait,
so how is it not?
Okay, so first of all, do you know who wrote it?
I don't.
Not the director. Secondly, I don't care what Drew's friend who asked another friend who asked a country singer who talked to a girl who saw a guy in a car at a red light said about the movie. Okay. I don't care what third party. I'm telling you, I set up a criteria because I'm a movie guy and this is what I do. And I tried to make it fair and I try to keep my logic completely in line. As you know, I never contradict myself. And so what I'd want to do is come up with a nice, even thing. First off, it's not about Christmas. Very first thing, it's not about Christmas. So the movie does take place during Christmas, and I'll give you that. That may be why somebody said Merry Christmas to him, huh? Because it takes place during Christmas, but it's not about Christmas. Like Elf is about Christmas, right? And the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is about Christmas. This movie's not about Christmas. Now, granted, that's not the sole criteria, just like Rings and the greatest player debate is not the sole criteria. But also in this film, Christmas isn't saved at any point, nor is it ever lost. We don't see any miracles of Christmas. We don't see the magic of Christmas. It's not about Christmas. It's an action movie that takes place on Christmas, which does not make it a Christmas movie.
It's set at an office party on Christmas Eve. Okay.
Yes.
Which there's plenty of movies that take place on Christmas Eve. Home Alone is a Christmas Eve Christmas movie.
Right. And that's a debatable one. We can come back to it, but keep going.
Okay. The Grinch is a Christmas Eve Christmas movie because the whole thing is about the night before Christmas.
The movie is
the
about
night
Christmas.
Before Christmas is a Christmas movie.
Right.
And it's about the night before Christmas.
Right.
Okay. So not only that, but you're talking about in Die Hard, there's a lot of stuff that has hallmarks of a Christmas movie in Die Hard. You've got the where he's coming back to spend time. The only reason he's there is to spend time with his family for Christmas.
Right.
Okay.
It takes place on Christmas. Bring up a point that doesn't have to do with it taking place on Christmas. How is it a Christmas?
What do you
movie?
mean now? How take away any point with the any movie that doesn't happen on Christmas? It's not a Christmas movie,
right? But I'm saying that it doesn't hinge on Christmas. The movie doesn't hinge on that.
What about all the Christmas music that's playing?
But like in the limo when they're riding, like it's not like the music for the movie.
How about when they're en route to the Christmas party at whatever Nakatomi Plaza or whatever it was called? Later on, they play Christmas in Hollis.
In the limo, yes.
Yeah.
Argyle likes to listen to Christmas music during Christmas because the movie takes place on Christmas. I get it, but that does not.
So
make
it's
it
a Christmas movie.
No, it just takes place on Christmas. It doesn't. It's not. There's not tied to Christmas in any way. Here's the thing. So I'll give you your same argument here. Ocean's 11 is not a heist movie. It's a boxing movie. Because the only reason that they were robbing the Bellagio on that day was because of the boxing match, which meant the Bellagio would have more money in the vault. Therefore, Ocean's 11, just like Rocky, is a boxing movie. That's your logic, by the way. I'm only using your logic. I don't actually believe that. That's what you're saying.
So then why do things like, right now, if you look on Peacock under the Christmas movie section, Die Hard 1 and Die Hard 2 are both available in the Christmas movie section.
Why do people say could care less when that doesn't make any sense? It's couldn't care less. Right? You can't cure stupid. If you get enough stupid people that just pile, they're lemmings. They go over the cliff together. All right. Somewhere down the line, somebody said Die Hard was a Christmas movie. They made a couple of weak points and everyone laughed. And then somebody at that party, though, said, you know what? Yeah, that was a good point. And it just built up steam.
So Drew says, is Home Alone a Christmas movie?
So like I said, that's a fringe one. I said we'd come back to it. So that's a fringe one because I think it is. I categorize it as one because it does have, at least we have Santa Claus in that one, but we have, he talks to the Santa Claus. He learns at the end, this is the Christmas, kind of thing. He learns a Christmas lesson. He learns at the end that family is the most important thing during Christmas. So to me, that's why it gets the nod. However, if somebody was like, listen, if you can't have Die Hard, you can't have Home Alone. I will fucking make that trade all day long.
So then you don't think that It's a Wonderful Life is a Christmas movie then, right?
Oh, it's not. It is not. It's gotten a lot of credibility. Like people say it's a Christmas movie because it's, for some reason there's two scenes.
The only time they air it is on Christmas Eve.
I know it's bananas. It's completely bananas, and it reminds me of like you know that song. These are a few of my favorite things. Right? That's a Christmas song, right? It plays every Christmas year. It's actually not. It's from The Sound of Music. It's about Nazi Germany. It has nothing to do with Christmas, but they mentioned Christmas in it twice, so now it's a Christmas song. So
you're blowing me away right now, Wayne.
Yeah, same thing with It's a Wonderful Life. I'm saying It's a Wonderful Life is not a Christmas movie, even though they play it all the time at Christmas. It's a suicide movie. It's a depression movie.
Yeah. What about Frosty the Snowman?
Oh yeah,
that's about a snow. Yeah, it's about a snowman that comes to life, but he doesn't come to life on Christmas Day.
Well, it doesn't have to be Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. It just has to be around.
It's just, so anything that happens to do with snow and snowmen now is a Christmas movie?
Frosty the Snowman is a Christmas song that was made into a movie. Therefore, it's a Christmas movie by, association.
Oh, God, you're killing me. Drew says, is Christmas Vacation a Christmas movie?
Yeah. Why wouldn't it be?
I don't know.
Is he just throwing them out there now? I mean, it takes place during Christmas. They go through the little advent calendar every day as like a new thing they do. They go sledding and they decorate the tree, he decorates the house. It's all about Christmas. Now, he could probably, I guess, argue like, well, it's about a guy getting a raise so he can buy a pool. I mean, come on, it's a Christmas movie. It's like, not every Christmas movie is just going to be people walking around going Christmas, 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 Christmas. There's going to be like a plot involved there.
I'm trying to think of other movies now that
Gremlins is another fringe one.
Gremlins is not a Christmas movie.
Well, it takes place during Christmas. Gizmo is a Christmas present, right? So, and maybe the miracle of Christmas is that the day is saved on Christmas. So Christmas was saved technically because they killed all the gremlins. So, by the way, I don't think it's a Christmas movie, but I can see somebody making the case for it.
You're killing me, Smalls. Okay. All right.
I'm saying, nothing about Die Hard is Christmas. Also, the other example I used, the Ocean's 11.
What do you mean nothing about Die Hard is Christmas? It takes place at Christmas Eve.
Yes, it takes place
on Christmas party.
Yes. Harry Potter takes place on Christmas, but it's not a Christmas movie. So here's the thing: the other example I used, other than Ocean's 11, is how about Space Jam is a baseball movie, not a basketball movie. Now listen to this: aliens kidnap a baseball player, force him to play a different sport, and then return.
All right, and we're going to mute your mic right there, Wayne G, because this is not happening. You are not bringing that blasphemy here to Man Hour. We are out of time. Man Hour Nation, Rise up.